But first, the Albanese government keeps boasting about its economic management, about how it's delivered successive budget surpluses, consistent high economic growth, high wages, energy prices, they say, that are always just about to fall, only we know they keep going up. But the IMF isn't buying the government's spin. In a report out today, the International Monetary Fund tips that by the end of next year, our inflation rate will be higher than almost every other advanced economy except Slovakia. Now, our inflation will be sticky at 3.6% in December next year, while the US, the UK, New Zealand and most of Europe will be at 2% or less. None of this bodes well for the Albanese government's hopes of a pre-election rate cut. But it confirms that field evidence, obvious to every one of you, that household budgets are under heavy pressure. We know, don't we, that power prices, they go up and up and up, the more renewable energy we get into the system, and that we've now had 6 successive quarters of negative growth per person or a sustained recession at an individual level. And then there's something else that helps to explain why the economy feels bad, even if the headline stats the government tells us can sometimes look good. And that is that 2/3 of all new jobs created over the past year, so 2 out of every 3 jobs, this is what it means, they're not jobs in the real economy, they're not market economic jobs, they're not private sector jobs. Instead, they're jobs on the taxpayer. Just over 170,000 of them in the health and social sciences area, so that's mainly the NDIS and in aged care. There's over 60,000 new jobs in public administration, so that's a bureaucrat of one sort or another. There's been almost 50,000 new jobs in education and training. Now, not so bad if they were highly competent teachers, but most of them, well, they're education bureaucrats, not people in a classroom. And all of these jobs are taxpayer supported. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we don't need teachers, nurses, police and a few in the public service, but these aren't real jobs because they're publicly funded. Now, we need these jobs, sure, but we also need a strong private sector because it's the private sector that creates wealth. The public sector just consumes wealth. So if we want a stronger economy, we need jobs being created by the private sector at perhaps 2 or 3 times the rate than the public sector. And that's not happening. And this is all about Jim Chalmers using your money, taxpayer funds, to prop up government jobs to make the unemployment numbers look better than they really are as Labor slides into an election. And if you want to know why there's been no interest rate cut and none likely anytime soon, look no further than this extra government spending. Federal spending alone, don't forget the states, but federal spending alone constitutes 27% of GDP. Now, that's an all-time record outside of wartime. It's yet another reason why I am pretty convinced this government's going to run to the election before the March budget, because the March budget will require them to deliver bad news, and there will be red ink that will be impossible to hide.